Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call the February Finance and Budget Committee meeting to order. I appreciate everybody being here this evening. I believe that Justice Ecke has agreed to do us the prayer and pledge. Justice Ecke?
Will you all stand and bow your heads in honor? Heavenly Father, hallowed be thy name. You are God Almighty, and we're so thankful that you gave us everything that you had that we might live. And because you gave us Jesus, we live here today, that we have this community, we have this court here, and we have this nation. And everything we have comes from you, and we want to acknowledge that and say we are grateful. Thank you for the spirit of wisdom and the spirit of governance that rests among us. And may we always, always humbly seek your face and honor you in all that we do. We ask your blessing upon our county judge and his family, and our sheriff and his family, and all the other elected members and their families, because we know what it takes to take time away from your families to be here to serve the citizens that we love so much. And so we bless them in the name of Jesus, and we thank you, Father. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Justice Ecke. With that, we're going to move to the adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion approved.
I have a motion by Justice Dean, second by Justice Dennis. All those in favor? Those opposed? We've adopted the agenda. Next up, we're going to move to our monthly reports. First up is our Treasurer's Report. Treasurer Hill.
All right, 4.1. If you look at the general and jail, revenue came in over expenditures. The road department expenditures came in a little bit over revenues, but all in all, most of the funds continue to have healthy balances going into February. At the bottom of this report, began the month with close to $107 million in the bank, and that's how we ended it. 4.2, this one I was going to give last month, but J.P. Ecke let us out early. So this is the total for 2023. If you look at the first line, general, if you're thinking that's too good to be true, well, it kind of is. 47.3 in revenue came in, 40.2 in expenditures came out. A lot of that revenue is insurance claims that are just sitting in the general fund right now. So the actual difference would be closer to 1.4 million revenues over expenditures. But even that's pretty good. We'll draw your attention to the 3020 emergency 911. They are not going to make the carryover I projected. They did not get a key piece of revenue. It is supposed to come in this year, and when we get it, we will recognize it, but they will not make their carryover, and their budget was real tight anyway, so their budget's going to be on the short end until we get that funding in. And the bottom of this report, we began 2023 with $99 million in the bank and ended with almost $107 million. 4.3, this is also for the year 2023. County general property taxes received. 19.1 million came in. That's a 9% increase over 2022. 4.4, ARPA report. Again, we've obligated all funds. We've expended 31.8 million. And we'll draw your attention to down at the bottom part of this report. Springdale, Fayetteville, and University of Arkansas has reimbursed us for part of the 911 consoles It was originally $640,000 is what came out of the ARPA fund to pay for that. And then they've reimbursed us $420,000, and as of right now, I'm not sure how we're gonna handle that, but that will be for discussion later on. 4.5, 1 cent sales tax. 2024 got off to a good start, 6.4% over the same time last year. These are November numbers. So this month, February, we'll see what Christmas did for us. 4.6 quarter cent jail tax, 1.3 million came in. That's about 84,000 over January of 2022, or 23, sorry. That's all I have.
Questions for Treasurer Hill? Justice Lemming?
That Springdale Fayetteville reimbursement should have been how much total?
It was 420,000.
No, was that the agreement price? You said it's,
No, I believe that's
what
they were just going to pay a portion of it,
okay,
not the entire thing.
okay.
Additional questions for Treasurer Hill? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next up, we'll move to the Employees Insurance Report. Mr. Angel? How are you, sir?
Well, how are you, Judge?
Good.
All right. Good evening. Well, I'll jump right in to our cash flow report. We've actually got the rolling 12 months here, so we can take a look back at 2023, and instead of projecting, we can see exactly, what happened here. The first line to the left, you'll see what our, estimated monthly claim, maximum claims is what that would usually say, but today it really should be total, because that gets estimated with each month, depending on enrollment, how many people we have on the plan, where the aggregate stop loss would kick in. But you'll see that our aggregate stop loss would have kicked in at 5.83 million. If you shift over to total claims paid, we get up to 5.77 million. So that's 123.59% of what the actuaries with the stop loss company thought our claims would be. So we had a little higher claims year. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody at the Horseshoe here. We kind of saw those things coming month over month. A lot of that was driven by some high dollar cancer treatments. So those things just come sometimes, and in an overall spend. I mean, we had a year where we had a lot of folks use the insurance. That's what it's here for. We did not hit that number, which should help us with the stop loss renewal next year, but still we can probably look for a bit of an increase there because we got so close to hitting our stop loss number, if that makes sense. If we want to look at the good news, we've talked about this several times over the course of the year. It's our prescription rebates. If we go over, we see we hit 714,000, just a little over 714,000 in prescription rebates. This was a new contract negotiated coming into this year. Last year we were at 322,000 in prescription rebates. That's about 120% higher. The great part about that is we kept the exact same formulary. So what that means is we covered the same drugs for our employees, and we're able to make it that much cheaper for us to purchase those drugs. That's what really saved us. We ended up spending approximately $350,000 more total than we did last year, but that number would have been around $700,000 had we not gotten the better pharmacy contract through CVS Caremark. I can go into a little more detail on what the pharmacy savings are. Again, it's a lot easier now that we have a full year to look at, so we can look at data. For our retail drugs in 2022, our average rebate was $210. In 2023, same thing, retail brands up to $305. So percentage-wise, quite a bit better there. Retail 90-day, where folks are buying 3 months at a time, we were averaging a $600 rebate, and in 2023 that went up to $762. Specialty drugs, your Humiras, things like that, the ones we see the ads for on television. In 2022, average rebate was $1,400, and in 2023 that went up to $2,800. So you'll see that that's how you get to those big numbers, because Pharmaceutical spend is a much larger percentage than it was 20 years ago, so making sure we have the best possible contracts there is how we keep prices down for both the county and its employees.
Questions for Mr. Angel?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. With that, we'll move into our comptroller's report, and this will be the first report given by our new comptroller, Mr. Paul Sherman. Good evening, Mr. Comptroller Sherman.
How's it going? Yeah, I've only been in the seat 1 week, so no difficult questions, please, but that'll be all right. Just so a little bit about my background, I came out of the military. I was comptroller for the last 4 years that I was in the military for the 189th Airlift Wing down in Little Rock, so that's where my comptroller experience comes from. But as far as 6.1 there, which is the budget and actual spending, nothing looked out of the ordinary. You figure if we're 1 month in, you spend about 8%, a little over 8%. And down the actual column there, there's a couple that are outliers, but there's reasons why. For example, there's the district court judges is 100%, but that's a one-time payment that's paid up front. So the total there, I think, was 7.3%, so we're looking good in that area. Is there any questions on the budget? I'll probably be more informative once I learn this a little bit. And then for 6.2, that's just the unappropriated reserve balance. There was only one ordinance that was passed last month that affected it, so it only changed by $220. So. Okay, thank you.
Questions for Comptroller? We're good this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Comptroller Sherman. We're excited to have him. He's even though he's only been here a week, he's been moving around and learning a lot about the county, and so I have very high hopes for that office into the future. With that, we're going to move into our new business portion of the agenda. Item number 7. An ordinance authorizing a short-term financing purchase pursuant to the provisions of Act 1808 of 2001 and Amendment 78 to the Arkansas Constitution. If you remember I believe it was last summer, Washington County received 4 new Mack dump trucks, and we financed those just from a cash flow management perspective. The order was for 5 dump trucks, and we were only able, due to supply chain issues and the supplies of Mack trucks, to only get the 4. And so we were always hopeful we could get the 5th one, and now this has come to fruition for us, and we're getting the 5th dump truck. This has been a big need for us in the road department. Our dump truck fleet has been pretty ragged. And then what I'd also like to share with you, ladies and gentlemen, is, I've said many times we live and die by the motor grader here in Washington County or any county in Arkansas. Well, the number 2 piece of equipment that we use quite often, of course, is dump trucks. This one here will be extremely critical for us. All of our dump truck fleet outside of the 4 we got last summer are very old. They're very high mileage. While I'm excited about this is we have put some very heavy expectations on our road department this year for paving season. And, of course, one of those critical pieces of machinery is the dump trucks. One of the things we're doing this year that I hope puts us in a better position to serve the citizens, but also puts us in a better position to reach our goals is we've selected some dump sites around the county to where we are going to be able to store some materials, specifically chips for our road paving, our chip seal operations around the county. What that lets us do is it lets us manufacture our own chips in our quarry down in Morrow, and then we transport those around to the county. So when it's critical this year in the summer, when we're in the heat of paving season, we can access and get those chips where they need to be in a timely fashion. And so, of course, the dump trucks will be extremely positive for that too. We've been very pleased by the 4 we've had. We've been trying to take care of them very, very well so far. I even told the men and women at the road department these last storm responses that we've had, hey, let's not use the newest dump trucks for the storm response. And so I don't know how long I'll be able to hold them off. But anyways, that's a little bit of insight here of why this other one has come up like this, and we would like to pursue this just like we did the other 4. Justice Ecke?
Thank you, Judge. I'd like to make a motion that we pass ordinance 7.1 with the due pass recommendation to the full quorum court.
I have a motion to pass item 7.1 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. I had a second by Justice Dean. Are there any further questions or comments? Yes, sir. Justice Dennis?
Thank you, Judge, and I do remember it, and when I was looking at it, I couldn't help but see the interest rate that we were gonna pay on that. Is there not a wiser way to do that and use our own money and pay our own self-interest or something like that?
Well, yes, there could be, and I'm not necessarily saying this is the most frugal way to do this long-term. What we'll do is we'll continue to monitor these financing arrangements. There's no penalty for us to pay them off early. This just allows us, what has happened here, which won't be a surprise to anybody who tries to do fleet management, all of our dump trucks are in poor condition at once. And so we can't, if we were to take all this money, and of course, just having one dump truck, of course, is a different story than having the complete 5 here from a financial standpoint. But if we take money from that, from a cash flow standpoint, we might not get some roads paved this year. We would have to forego that. And I think right now, specifically, I would like to go ahead and do this in this manner, make sure we're getting our paving season where we need it to be. And then in the future, if we see extra funds come available, we will pay these off early, absolutely.
Okay. If I could.
Sure.
Have a second question. That would bring me to the second question. I'm no expert at all, but I got to see Highway 170 in front of my house, all 5 miles of it. Didn't matter which way I went for a couple of weeks. I got to learn a lot about paving. And
Sure.
I even got to talk and visit with the guys that were on the crew, because they were in the front yard, and I carried them lemonade, sort of deal. And so the one thing I noticed was this: they used private carriers to bring the asphalt. And when you're talking about our trucks being older, so is that ever done by the county? And if so, is it a good thing? And if not, why wouldn't we do that as well, since the state does it?
It is a good thing if you don't have the labor. To this point, we've had the labor for everything we've done, with the exception of Robinson Road last summer. We got behind on that road, and we purchased both some chips, and we outsourced the hauling at that particular time, just because it was a time constraint.
Right. Yes.
So we're constantly evaluating opportunities like that. If I also don't have men and women sitting on the sidelines while we're doing that. Does that, I want everybody gainfully employed.
Right.
When that happens.
Right.
We're not opposed to that, I guess what I'm saying, if it helps us get the project done.
Well, you mentioned it, but time is so important, and the heat is so important. And, they were just lined up. I mean, one finished, another one was there, another one came in. It was just like a train.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just consistent. That paver it was only going 2 miles an hour maybe, or whatever it was going, but it's quicker than you could walk. But they just kept it going all day long. And
Yeah, I've been astonished even back if you're talking about a chip seal operation and not just asphalt. But once they hit a straight area, they can really cover a lot of ground. It's when you're working corners and curves and that kind of stuff that it.
Right.
Yep.
Well, I could see the need of having more trucks than what we have available whenever you're doing a big paving project.
Well, and I'll also keep in mind that staffing had been an issue for the road department in previous years. Up until, we've made a lot of gains in that in the last year or so. And so there was a component to this too, that it didn't matter how many trucks you had if you didn't have the drivers. Well, now we're back to where we believe we can hire drivers reliably. And so now we have the drivers to drive the trucks, and that makes this even more important.
Very good. Very good. Sounds like you're on top of it.
Well, I don't say that, but we try. Thank you, Justice. Justice Lemon?
Yes, I just want to add a little bit more to what Dennis was saying. I mean, if you're at full swing and you're doing chip seal roads and you're doing asphalt at the same time, trucks can't be at both places at the same time. So if you got contractors bringing you asphalt, you can continue on with your chip sealing.
Right.
And if you also got outside trucks bringing chips, you can also continue with your dirt roads and hauling to your dirt roads. So to me, contracting a lot of that out in the summertime is a lot more feasible than trying to do it with your own truck.
And yes, and I think,
It's just, you got 13 road graders sitting out there waiting on 2 loads for this road, 3 loads for that road, 5 loads for this road, all day long, and they get 1 load. I mean, you can't, in the summertime, you can't buy enough trucks, you can't buy enough help to do what you need to
and
do.
you usually can't buy enough chips.
Right, but,
And what I'll say to this too, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna make some extraordinary gains in our road program this year, or we're gonna fall flat on our face. And
Well,
what
the
I
big-
find interesting about what you just said is, you can't run chip seal and run asphalt crews at the same time with the same trucks. Well,
Right,
we've
okay.
never had an asphalt crew and a chip seal crew at the same time. We will this year, and so this will be a little bit of uncharted waters, I'd say, for Washington County in terms of the expectations we've put on, the program that we have planned out, the roads that we have planned to do. This will be I will share this. Justice Lyons said to me one time, well, I want to be able to track the progress of the road department throughout this year, and we're working on some things to keep not only just you, ladies and gentlemen, but the public informed. But I kind of chuckled and told him, you're going to know whether or not we're succeeding or failing because you'll be able to see it. The people will feel it in this county.
well, what you mentioned earlier that I'd mentioned to you that the state done, this chip sealing, piling your chips, building your chips all summer long is that, getting it done right now in a pile saves a ton of time. And if you got them within a mile of your road, instead of having to haul them all the way from Morrow all the way to Goshen, if you already got them piled up within a mile, 2 trucks can do what 10 trucks will take to haul them that far.
Absolutely.
I mean, I worked for the state for 13 years, and we done it all over, and that's the way we done it. We got them as close to the road as we could get them.
Well, and having these staging areas or drop sites or whatever you want to call them around the county, this is a new strategy for us. If we're in the throes of paving season in the summer and we don't have these stockpiled in the strategic areas around the county, we can't do it. We can't truck them from Morrow to Goshen or wherever that particular work site might be in enough time to make any kind of a difference in our paving programs.
Well, you can be building your chips now too, and you don't have to wait on them. You can have them made when you get ready this summer.
Right, that's what we're doing.
Right.
Yeah, that's what we're doing right now,
Thank you.
stockpiling. Justice Coger?
Thank you, Judge. Back to what J.P. Dennis asked about a while ago. So the road department, according to the report that we just saw, has unappropriated reserves of $2.2 million.
That's correct.
So why wouldn't it be a better ideal? Because if I figured this correctly, we're going to be paying like over $39,000 in interest on this dump truck. So why wouldn't it be better just to take that money and pay cash and maybe get some kind of deal?
Because of some of the pending ordinances on this agenda. If we're gonna do bridge projects through grant programs, there's matching funds that come across with that. I'd like to keep our powder dry to make sure that we can facilitate those bridge building projects that we're funding largely through grants, but we will have significant matching funds enabled for that. And so I'm very protective of the unappropriated reserves, just because I always want to give ourselves a cushion. Remember, we will have storm response, that kind of stuff, but also because of those matching issues like that.
Okay. When will we make the first $34,547.46 payment?
I don't know that. I don't know that in front of me. I think that's pending in terms of when we can sign the financing agreements, all dependent upon this ordinance passing. When that gets signed and when they put us on, just like when you go buy a car as an individual, I don't know what that exact date will be right now.
So we're not making a down payment?
No.
Okay. So if we pay this first payment in 2024, then we have to amend our budget, correct? Our 2024 budget, is that correct?
I'm going to be honest. I don't know that particular. I don't know whether they think they have the funds already budgeted or whether I haven't. I would think that they would bring that ordinance too. I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that. I could definitely follow up on that and have that for the quorum meeting.
Okay. Let's see what else I had. Okay, if I remember correctly, when we bought the 4 dump trucks early last fall, we already had 12 dump trucks. So this will make, then we got 4, so that makes 16. So this will be 17 dump trucks that we have for the county. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. And,
And I would invite anybody to come look at the 12 we have. And that's probably the equivalent of 4.5.
okay. Well, I mean, I understand that roads are very important for education, public safety, economy, and everything, but I just want to point out that the 2023 road budget was 13.8 million. The 2024 road budget is 16.8 million. That's a big increase.
And I believe that increase matches the expectations of the Washington County taxpayers. They're paying that tax, and that's imposed at the state level through the highway tax, which is now emblazoned in our Constitution, whether or not you thought that was a good idea or not. So what I face, I believe, on a daily basis is the taxpayers telling me what they expect.
It just makes me nervous that much of an increase. I mean, it just makes me nervous that much of an increase.
It makes me nervous that we can keep our infrastructure up to par with the growth we're seeing.
And when you were talking about your ambitions for the road, I think we're going from paving 65 miles in 2023 to 100 miles in 2024. Is that correct?
We've paved 86 miles in 2023. We have a road program in front of us now that will be 200 miles.
200?
200 miles of both asphalt and chip seal paving this year. And so what I'm saying is I understand the investment we're making in roads. I understand you, ladies and gentlemen, can look at this budget, and I understand it can make all of us nervous. And that's where we have set some big expectations for ourselves this year.
Well, that's a good question. I mean, that's another question. How did we come up with that number, 200?
The road department keeps some inventory, a rolling schedule or agenda, if you will, of the roads. You know, they say, well, if we go and chip seal this road in 7 years, we're going to have to be back to chip seal this road again. And so the unfortunate part is there was not a lot of maintenance being done for a few years there, and we've really gotten behind on a lot of this maintenance. And so not only is it listen, there's no vanity in this or no bragging rights in terms of just how many roads can you pave. This is what needs to be done for Washington County right now. It's 200 miles of roads. And I don't see that letting up on us for another 3, 4, 5 years. Yeah, well, yeah, but it's not just our growth, it's also the fact that I don't know what was going on. I don't know who's manning the ship for the 3 or 4 years got to this point. But we are very woefully behind in our road maintenance. I think you can see it if you're a user of the roads, and we've got a lot of work to do.
Okay, a little nervous about that, but thank you.
Justice Dennis?
Thank you, Judge. I'd just like to tag along on that. Thank you very much for what you're doing on the road department and for their increase. You got to realize, come out some morning to Farmington and come at 7 o'clock and start heading towards Fayetteville. You realize that it backs up and goes through stoplight after stoplight, and go ahead and add 16, go ahead and add East 16 coming in and 45 coming in. People are sitting there it takes you almost an hour to get into, to Fayetteville from Farmington. I'm talking about all the way into 49. I mean, it's just backed up unbelievably. I mean, you think that you know. I thought I knew, but I don't. I go to a coffee at 8:30. I don't go at 8 o'clock. And I had to go to some doctor appointments with my wife at 7, and I knew how long it takes. I had to double my travel time. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So many people are living outside of quote unquote Fayetteville anymore. They're everywhere else now, and they're just additions everywhere, it's unbelievable, really. And I think we're going to have to even look at someday building an access road or a road to take some of the pressure off of like 62. Of course, now I would favor 62 because I'm District 10, but honestly, 62 is so busy that people are taking the shortcuts going over to 265 from Prairie Grove and using Illinois Chapel Road. And, with some of that, I'd like to see us build a road over Kessler Mountain and then have two roads coming into Fayetteville instead of just 62. But, so, I'm thrilled to hear this because it affects people's lives a tremendous amount. And, you know, you think you're running trying to get to a medical, and maybe it's not a 911, I mean, they still have the right of way and come through, but maybe you're trying to get your wife to an appointment, and if she misses it, they won't see her for another month, but yet that was an extremely important appointment. And, you know, I experienced it. I mean, it's real, and it happens every single day. You just don't see it unless you're going to work every single day from those spots. And so, thank you very much for my district. Thank you.
We're working hard.
Not only for what you have done, but for what you will do. So,
And I'll say that nothing's off the table with our road department in terms of what we want to try to set our goals for and accomplish. And that, of course, another extremely important person in all this is Dr. Russell, our grants administrator, who is always on the search for how to bring more revenue back to our county and make our roads better. Justice Bond?
Just wanted to express my appreciation for what you're doing with your road program, and I could just have said everything you've already said about how far behind we've gotten, and we're to the point where if something major is not done on many of those roads, the bottom's going to fall out on them. And I'm really glad you're doing this. I've been a whole lot more nervous about not enough has been getting done on those roads for quite a few years now. So thank you very much.
Well, it's probably about time for me to really reiterate. I appreciate the compliments, but it's all our men and women in the road department that have made this possible up to this point. They had a good year last year, and they're going to have a better year this year, and I hope to have a better year next year. And so we can just keep building off of this success, hopefully. Yes, sir, I will. With that, any other discussion or questions on item number 7? Any public comments on item number 7? With that, I had a motion to pass item number 7 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Ecke, a second by Justice Dean. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item number 7 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 8, an ordinance projecting revenues and carryover amounts totaling $19,810,030.08 in various grant funds and appropriating the total amounts of $19,810,030.08 to various grant funds and budget line items for 2024. Not to oversimplify this, but this is essentially a housekeeping item. This closes out all of our grant accounts that had money appropriated to it for 2023 and rolls that to the grant accounts for 2024. That's a process that's separate from the budget. I do have one amendment that Dr. Russell has requested if somebody would help me, and that is to strike line number 40, the U.S. Department of Energy Grant Fund 3530 for $77,520, and line 61, the corresponding line 61. Dr. Russell tells us that we don't need to close that and roll it for this year. We got that money in 2024, and so it is there and appropriated now. It just needs to be removed from this ordinance. Justice Ecke?
Thank you, Judge. I'd like to make a motion for amendment, striking line item number 40 and 61 from 8.1.
I have a motion to amend by Justice Ecke, a second by Justice Dean. Are there any further questions or comments on the amendment? Seeing none, those in favor of the amendment? Aye. Those opposed? Item number 8 has been amended. With that, I would entertain a motion to pass as amended. Justice Ecke?
Yes, Judge, I'd like to make a motion that we pass 8.1 to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation.
I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court 8.1 as amended by Justice Ecke, second by Justice Dean, to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Any further discussion or questions on item 8.1? Any public comments on item 8.1? Seeing none, we'll take up the question. I have a motion to pass item 8.1 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Ecke, second by Justice Dean. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item number 8.1 will move to the full quorum court. Item number 9, an ordinance anticipating and appropriating additional revenue in the amount of $6,500 in the Law Enforcement Grant Fund for 2024. This is a grant for alternative dispute resolutions that the Sheriff's Department has received. This accepts the grant money and appropriates it so that we can use it. Justice Ricker?
Make a motion to pass this to full quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
A motion to pass to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation, second by Justice Dean, or motion by Justice Ricker, second by Justice Dean. Any further discussion or questions? Justice Lemming?
Josh, could you tell us what this is about? Or, I mean, what is it? What dispute? What do they dispute?
No, I cannot.
Okay. I mean, okay, thank you.
Any further discussion or questions? Yes, ma'am. Any public comments on item 9.1? Seeing none, we're going to take up the question. I have a motion to pass item 9.1 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Ricker, second by Justice Dean. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item 9.1 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 10, an ordinance amending the 2024 budget and other matters pertaining thereto. When we were going through our budget process, a few times I remember former Comptroller Story had some questions about the transfer out line items. It was something that I don't believe he ever got kind of ironed out. And so these are line items that we spend out of for some of these associated grant funds. And so this is not something that affects our general fund. It's something from an accounting standpoint we need to move to these accounts. And so they were omitted from the budget, essentially. We didn't get them in the budget, and so that's why we're bringing this to essentially fix that error in our budget. Are there any further questions, or to entertain a motion on item number 10.1? I have a motion to pass item 10.1 to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation by Justice Ecke, a second by Justice Dean. Are there any further discussions or questions? Any public comments on item 10.1? Seeing none, we're going to take up the question. I have a motion to pass items 10.1 to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation by Justice Ecke, a second by Justice Dean. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item 10.1 will move to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation. Item number 11, an ordinance anticipating additional revenue totaling $270,000 in the Crisis Stabilization Unit Grant Fund and appropriating $270,000 from the Crisis Stabilization Grant Fund to other professional services line item in the CSU Grant Fund for 2024. This is really not anything new or breaking news with regard to our CSU. If you remember last fall, we had a little bit of back and forth with the state who were trying to give that funding a haircut. The state went ahead and agreed to go ahead and pay for that and to fully fund that for another year. So that's kind of old news and resolved. What we need to do is pass an ordinance to accept that additional money and appropriate it to the line item. That's what this does. Justice Ricker, just... Okay. You have a motion to pass? A motion to pass to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Coger, second by Justice Dennis. Any further discussion or questions on this item? Any public comments on item number 11? Seeing none, we're going to take up the question. I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation by Justice Coger, a second by Justice Dennis. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item number 11 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 12, a resolution expressing the willingness of the Quorum Court of Washington County, Arkansas to utilize federal aid funds for the Wheeler Road Clabber Creek Bridge project. Like I was expressing to Justice Coger earlier in our comments on the previous item, this is a major project that we're undertaking for Washington County. This will be years in the making. It's definitely one of those where you have the analogy of when's the best time to plant a tree, today or 20 years ago. And so we're starting down this path. This is something that we'll want to keep some of our funds available for the future. There is a 20% match, as you can see, on these funds. This continues the process in the federal grant fund timeline, if you will, there's no major expenditures right now on the forefront. What we're moving to now is selection of engineering and getting that started. And so you'll see more funds come about as we work through that process. But this is the resolution that lets the federal government know that we're not acting unilaterally in the judge's office and the road department, and that we have the support of the men and women around the horseshoe. With that, I'd entertain, Justice Secchi?
Yes, Judge, I'd like to make a motion that we pass item number 12 to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation.
Motion to pass item number 12 to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation by Justice Secchi, second by Justice Dean. Justice Lemming?
I guess we won't know any kind of cost of anything until we hire an engineering to get engineering started, or?
Yes, sir. So this grant rolls out in tranches. The first tranche we've received is $200,000 to start that engineering process. And of course, we'll have a much better idea of what the actual bridge will cost. This is going to be an expensive and long-term project. I'll just warn you about that. That's
Well, all bridges are.
Absolutely. And they get higher every day.
Yep.
Any further discussion or questions on item number 12? Justice Coger?
I'd just like to understand, so I know a resolution is just a resolution, it's not an ordinance. So say if that 20% comes to be more than we can afford, what happens then?
If we fall out of the, if we fall out of the process, we're on the hook for 100% of it.
Yeah, that's what I
And
was,
so
that
that's
was
why
my
it's
next
very,
question.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just gonna say that was my next statement, because I was reading that to be that projects that never progress to construction, or not completion, to construction are 100%.
Yes. So this is why it'll be very critical for us to continue to monitor this and get a budget for this project and make sure it's something that we still want to do for Washington County.
Okay, so this is not binding us?
No, this
it's
is a
just-
requirement of the grant terms.
Okay.
That they want to just ensure that, once again, we're not moving out without the support of our legislative body.
Okay, I'm good with that.
to move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Any public comments on item number 12? Seeing none, we're going to take up the question. I have a motion to pass item number 12 to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation by Justice Secchi, second by Justice Dean. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item number 12 will move to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation. Item number 13, a resolution expressing the willingness of the Quorum Court of Washington County, Arkansas to utilize federal aid funds for the Ballard Creek Bridge replacement on Little Road project. This is in form much like the previous resolution. The difference with this one is this is much more to the county's advantage in terms of our matching. We're only a 10% match here. This is also a sub-grant administered by RDOT through the state. Much easier to do, much easier to work through this process, hopefully, than in comparison to the other one. But still, something that's required to move forward with the grant funding is that we show support for the resolution. Justice Lemming?
This here, it states it's just a feasibility study, is that correct?
That's correct.
I mean, what are they studying? I mean, just.
One is the engineering and that type of thing, all the front-loaded work, if you will, of design and that kind of stuff.
This goes back to engineering.
Mm-hmm. I do believe the state calls it a feasibility study because they are going to do some research into the traffic on it and that kind of thing. We're very optimistic about this, though. We think this
Well, that bridge has been needing replaced for about 20 years.
Yep.
And if you get out and look at it, you probably won't drive over it because there's concrete should be about 6 inches thick, and it's so deteriorated it's about 2 inches thick. The gap's supposed to be about 1 inch, and it's about 4.
Yep.
It's very dangerous. And hay cutters and tractor and hay cutters won't even cross it. It ain't wide enough. So that bridge is very much needed to be replaced.
And I know that I'll say this not just for the benefit of you, ladies and gentlemen, but for the public. We are very aware of our bridge issues in Washington County. We're trying very hard to catch up with them, is what I would say. And this is a great opportunity for us to utilize some federal aid money to try to get a very needed bridge replaced. Justice Ecke?
Thank you, Judge. I'd like to make a motion that we pass 13.1 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
I have a motion to pass item 13.1 of the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation by Justice Ecke. I believe I heard second by Justice Dennis. Any further discussion or questions on item number 13? Any public comments on item number 13? Oh, I'm sorry. Justice Coger? Didn't
Yes,
see you.
I just have one question, and when it talks about all utility reimbursable and non-reimbursable relocation costs will be borne by the county if the project does not proceed to construction, what would that be like for, I mean, would that be like boring under the highway or something, or?
Yeah, that would be any utilities. There are areas where utilities are attached to a bridge. And so anything that we have to move like that or anything we have to move within the construction process, I don't think there's that many, this is template form language. I don't believe there's that much in terms of utility work to be done.
Okay, I was just curious, and I was wondering what kind of utilities a bridge would have.
Yeah.
Okay,
This is language right out of the grant.
okay, thank you.
Justice Lemming?
Well, a lot of times, whenever you're talking about utilities, whenever you build a bridge, you know, this bridge is 8 foot wide, the new bridge may be 12 foot wide. And if you move the right-of-way 12 foot over, that way is there water, sewer, and electrics on the right-of-way, it has to be moved further back so you can make a bigger bridge on the same right-of-way. So you have to move it back so you can do that. But most bridges don't have utilities tied to them, but there's a few around Washington County because there's some water lines that's busted in the creek and they're tied to the bridges right now, but normally they don't allow any of that to be tied to a bridge, but that's what that means.
And that's true, and also with the right-of-way, sometimes if you're expanding a road or moving a bridge, you need to acquire land. I will say that most citizens in Washington County are very accommodating to us when we're trying to improve the roads and especially improve a bridge. So, further questions, discussion? Any public comments on item number 13? Seeing none, we're going to take up the question. I have a motion to pass item number 13 to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation by Justice Ecke, second by Justice Dennis. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item number 13 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. I might suggest we have a consent agenda for next week's meeting.
Make a motion for consent agenda.
I have a motion to put items number 7 through 13 on the consent agenda by Justice Dennis. Second by Justice Washington. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Items number 7 through 13 have been moved to the consent agenda. With that, we're going to move to public comments. We have a 12-minute public comment period with a limit of 3 minutes per individual. Are there any public comments this evening? Seeing none, we'll be adjourned.